Hey VC, Big Star 1000 with a new installment of Revolutions, my ongoing listening diary. I hope everyone's well in these strange times, that you have the time to indulge in a lot of record spinning and rediscovering your collection. And the record I was just playing a minute ago, I was playing Scott Walker 3, which is Scott Walker's third album, Scott Engel as his real name goes. And this is a wonderful Baroque chamber pop record from the early 70s, and for me always the Jacques Brel connection is very strong, and he's a very big fan of Jacques Brel, and I think the only difference is Jacques Brel's versions are, to me, they're more emotional. When I listen to Jacques Brel, sometimes I want to cry, and I know that he does a great service to the songs. Like on this, you've got Funeral Tango, which is one of Jacques Brel's classics. And he does it really well, and the translations are really great. And but I don't know, there's a quality about Jacques Brel which is oozing melancholy. You know, you might disagree. This morning, I was revisiting this album, which has been on my shelf for a good 10 years, but I haven't played this record for many years. Michael Hurley, Armchair Boogie. Michael Hurley is what you could call an outsider folk artist. He made most of his known career in Greenwich Village in New York. I think he came from somewhere else, from, I don't know, somewhere south. No, actually, no. He grew up in Philadelphia. That's right. I'm pretty sure he did. But this is probably his best known album. He also made records with the Holy Modal Rounders, and he's also a cartoonist and a painter, and these drawings are his. And this is his werewolf, Joko, I think the name is. And the first song here is called Werewolf. And if you want to get a good idea of what Michael Hurley's music sounds like, this kind of country blues, country folk, but kind of, you know, slightly crazy with sort of obtuse lyrics, you might listen to Werewolf, the opening track. It's fantastic. This is from 1971, I think, 71. And before that, this morning, I played this wonderful record, very highly recommended. It's Azimuth. I don't know if the camera will pick it up. Azimuth is basically a band on the ECM label, composed of Norma Winston, who is an English jazz vocalist, her husband John Taylor on piano and organ, and Kenny Wheeler on trumpet and flugelhorn. Well, this could have easily slipped into my UK jazz gimme tin, but it's a bit too late for what I was going for. This is from 1978. This is a beautiful record all the way through. It's not your typical ECM. It's got these beautiful wordless vocals by Norman Winston. It's the best I've ever heard Norman Winston. Really, I really love this, and it's ambient and atmospheric, and the Kenny Wheeler trumpet is mournful, and it's a beautiful record. And the debut record is also very good too. Azimuth, the Touchstone, it's called. Last night I revisited this wonderful debut by Echo and the Bunnymen Crocodiles. Great Liverpool post-punk new wave band. One of the best records easily, with a string of hits like, for me anyway, Rescue, All the Jazz, such a great song. Crocodiles, Stars Are Stars is a personal favourite of mine. Yes, the band fronted by Ian McCulloch and Will Sargent. Fantastic post-punk. If you don't have this, it's essential listening in the scheme of post-punk, new wave, and you know, vaguely connected because of the same time period in the same country. Is this Hate with Deceit, the album Deceit, which is their second record from 1981. This Hate, kind of avant-garde, experimental post-punk from London, fronted by Charles Haywood and Charles Bullen. Yes, which sprawled another few bands like the great Camberwell Now, and what's the other one? I've got it. The Love Tones. I don't even remember the records I have. That's how stupid I am. And to me, it's the best record. I really like Deceit, especially like, you know, Makeshift Swahili and SPQR, We Are the Romans is, I mean, that's the track that got me into this Heat, like probably 15 years ago. When I first heard, more than that actually, maybe nearly 20 years ago, when I first heard SPQR, I was just like, wow, this is like, it's music that is completely original and fresh and brilliant. And I'm going to make a segue to this band here, Quiet Sun, their only album. Quiet Sun is classified as a Canterbury prog band with some very strong jazz rock leanings and also quite experimental. It's a band featuring Charles Haywood from This Heat on drums, percussion and keyboard. And it also features Phil Manzanera from Roxy Music on guitar, Bill McCormick, and also Brian Eno. This is a classic of that time period of the Canterbury School, and I was playing this because I was considering including this in my Gimme 10 Jazz Rock. Didn't make it, but it's a beautiful record nonetheless. And of note, there is a track, the very last track on side 1, which is called RFD, which is beautiful and ambient, kind of. When I was listening to it, I was struck by how much it sounded like this other great record by Ernest Hood called Neighborhoods, which I have also. It's got this kind of like spectral ambient quality with the way the keyboards is played, and listen to RFD, it's beautiful. And so when I was making the video for Jazz Rock, I sampled and I revisited lots of records, and I got stuck on listening to Henry Cow again. This one and also that one. So this is Legend, or yeah, the Henry Cow Legend. I can't even speak English anymore. Legend or Leg End, and this is their second record, I think, called Unrest. This is a really nice record, sort of avant-garde mixed with jazz. I mean, they call this rock in opposition, which is kind of a term that doesn't mean much to me as a listener. I listen to this and I think there's a lot of jazz in there. There's so much jazz. There's a bit of rock. There's a lot of experimental music. The band included Fred Frith on guitar, Chris Cutler on drums, John Greaves on bass. This is the band that morphed into Art Bears. These are great records. I also played In Praise of Learning, the red one, but I don't know, I got turned off by Dagmar Krause's vocals. It drove me insane. So these ones don't have Dagmar Krause on, and I think it's probably a blessing. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. It just didn't do anything for me. Listen to Nirvana for Mice, the opening track. Such a good track, such a good track. And I also considered including The Polite Force by Egg. Egg was also a Canterbury prog band. This is a very jazz rock effort. They were a trio originally of Mon Campbell on bass, and he's also the singer. Dave Stewart from the band Hatfield and the North, which I'm going to talk about as well in a second, and Clive Brooks on drums. I remember watching a documentary called Prog Britannia or something. I remember Mont Campbell talking about how there were almost no girls at prog gigs in England back in those days, and he said something like, you know, try to thrust your pelvis playing in 26/4. It's impossible, and that made me laugh so hard. And I thought, yeah, well, that's why, you know, prog were, you know, sausage fists basically. But this is a great record. Lots and lots and lots of beautiful jazz arrangements on this. It's killer. And the last Canterbury prog record that I sampled is the Hatfield and North. I included the Rotters Club, but this one is just as good, really. I think the Rotters Club is a notch better. It's jazzier. This is more proggy, and this is, but it's a beautiful record. The debut, Hatfield and North. Richard Sinclair from Caravan, Pip Pal from National Health, I think. Dave Stewart from Egg. There we go. Fantastic. Okay, recently I also revisited this Steve Reed record called Nova. Steve Reed was a drummer. He released a lot of records under his name, and this is probably the one that I go to the most. I have all of his major albums, like Odyssey of the Oblong Square, and all of his collaborations with Fortet as well, which are great. And you can see how good a drummer he is on those releases with Fortet or Kieran Hebden. Kieran Hebden plays very loose electronics. It's almost like a modern version of the Silver Apples, really. If you think about the Silver Apples, just a drummer and someone with twiddling some knobs. It was very similar in some ways. Not the music per se, but the concept. Anyway, I digress. This record is fantastic. It's called Nova. It features Amir Abdullah on trumpet. Amir Abdullah. Amir Abdullah is the guy who runs, who is in Wax Poetics. He runs his own label. Ahmed Abdullah on trumpet. And a bunch of other musicians, which are not really super well known. I mean, Steve Reed is clearly he's the celebrity of the lot, but this is just a killer spiritual jazz record. Very, very highly recommended. I pulled out this beautiful kind of modal jazz record it's modal but funky, by Neil Craig, called Contrast. This is a record that came out on Cobblestone, which is, I think, a subsidiary label of Muse, or vice versa. I don't know. You tell me. I'm stupid. Remember, Cobblestone. This is, I think, is an original pressing. This is a wonderful, wonderful, funky jazz record with Neil Craig on piano, electric piano, clavinet, organ, and bells. If that doesn't sell it to you, what will? And then other musicians that, again, are not really big names, big hitters, but they do a great job. This is from 1972, Neil Craig. Very, very, very funky, beautiful, spirited sessions. Here's a record that I think maybe most people who watch my channel would be aware of. And I haven't played this for a long time as well. Placebo, Ball of Eyes by Placebo. Placebo is a band from Brussels in Belgium, and the main composer is Marc Moulin, who plays the keys on this, and he does a lot of the composing. Here he composed almost all of the tracks. It opens with a cover of Inner City Blues, which is a great cover, but I mean, that's, to me, it's not really the highlight of the record. You've got Humpty Dumpty, for example, closes side one is brilliant. Moulin is brilliant. His Sam Sufi solo record is amazing. Like those songs like Toy Boy, just pure fire. European jazz funk at its very best. My favorite Placebo album, however, is the red one, 1972, I think, or 73. Sorry, I think that's his best record. But I love this too. Here is a great Argentinian jazz fusion, jazz rock record from 1972 by George Lopez Ruiz 5, and it was recorded in 72, and it's, what can you describe this as? Very sort of Electric Miles. If you're into Electric Miles, this is awesome. Kind of Electric Miles style record, with jazz fusion, jazz rock, jazz fusion from Argentina, and George Lopez Ruiz plays the bass on this, as he normally does, and the cello and other instruments. I'm a bit rambling today. Passport, the band led by Klaus Doldinger. I'll just have this. I don't have a lot of Passport records, I just have this. I've got some Klaus Doldinger solo records, but I think I'm content with just having this because it tells me everything I need to know about Passport. It's a great record. Klaus Doldinger plays tenor sax, soprano sax, Moog, and electric piano. Again, if that doesn't sound to you, what will? It's a record from 73, funky jazz fusion from Germany. Killer, absolute killer. Here is a modern jazz record that I highly recommend. I just got it probably 2 weeks ago. It's Nat Birchall, the Nat Birchall Quartet. Nat Birchall is an English sax player. There you go. And this was released on Jazzman, as you can see there. And it says a musical tribute to Yusef Lateef. And that's what it is. It's a musical tribute to Lateef with some reinterpretation of Lateef tunes. Plus, he composed some of his own songs, of his own tunes, which are directly inspired by Yusef Lateef. And the cover depicts some African instrument like kalimba, and these appear on a few of the tracks. But it's a beautiful record. Absolutely, highly recommend this. It's one of the best new things I bought in a long time. This is great. Almost there. A few years ago, I don't know, when is this from? I'm voting 2015 or thereabouts. There was a time where Death Waltz was all the rage. They released John Carpenter soundtracks like they were going out of business. And this is The Fog by John Carpenter. Very heavy, huge package on brown vinyl. It's a horror movie from the 70s. And yes, it does sound like it's a very synthy, like super pulsating, super synth-based, Tangerine Dream-esque, but more sinister, like really frightening at times soundtrack. I hesitated playing this last night because I'm in the house by myself and I'm thinking I'm in Psycho or something. No, not quite, but it's very dense and frightening music, all on synth, by John Carpenter. And if he wanted to scare you, he managed. And I'll finish on jazz. Here is a great solo record by Thelonious Monk. I mean, I adore Monk. I think Monk is, I mean, he's one of my top 4 favorite jazz musicians. Miles, Strain, Monk, Mingus. Is to me the crucial 4 are those 4, and I have a lot of Monk on record. And this is a nice live date, recorded in San Francisco, October 21st and 22nd, 1959. Solo piano. This is not the greatest Monk record. I wouldn't say I would recommend this over, you know, I don't know, Monk's Dream, or, you know, those kinds of records. But it's a nice record if you can find it cheap. It's a Japanese press. It was first released on Riverside many moons ago. Here is a couple of Blue Note classics everybody should own. This one, and also, well, I'll show that one at the same time. They're from the same time, and they've got the same, oh, I'm losing everything here. They're clearly from the same time. They've got the same typography, the same everything. And both of them are essential. Moaning by the Art Blakey, and the Jazz Messengers, and something else featuring Miles Davis on trumpet. Both of these are, what can I say? They're essential to any jazz collection. In fact, maybe they should belong to the first 10 records you buy if you get into jazz. I think we can agree on that. Fantastic, very fantastic. And I'll finish off on this one, which I played last night, Evolution by Grachan Moncur III. One of the best Blue Notes as well. Lee Morgan, Grachan Moncur on trombone, Jackie McLean, Bobby Hutcherson. This is a great Bobby Hutcherson record. And Tony Williams on drums. Amazing. Alright, I'll stop here, VC, because I'm rambling, and yeah, it's not really working for me this afternoon. Love you all. Leave me some comments. Interact. Until next time.